does that look so different? Holy jeez. Check 1, 2. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And as you can tell, I think someone messed with my lighting this morning. So we are going to try to fix that on the go. Not something I'm an expert on. But again, thank you for joining us. I hope you can bear with my orangeness. No, this is no take on the election whatsoever. Or former President Trump. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's not as bad. I don't know. Looks faded out. We're going to mess with that during commercial break. I did receive a lot of comments. I want to thank everybody who reached out at the end of the program. We got a ton of comments at the end of the program. I didn't get to all of them. They got lost in a lot of waves right at the end. If you are new to the show, you can see the number on the bottom of the screen. You can text or leave a voicemail at any time. We try to get to all of them. I also received one late last night, and I to that viewer, not ignoring it. It came in kind of out of order and out of place, so I haven't had a chance yet this morning as I was doing my show prep to kind of decipher is not the right word, but to put it in order and figure out the text themselves. It's the way the program works, so I'm not avoiding that one. But here are the ones from yesterday. Harris is the Democrat version of Dan Quayle. Another comment from another viewer. Wow, CNN says now a prosecutor versus a criminal contest. That is the talking point that Harris's campaign is definitely using, as you've seen maybe yesterday with the rally where they don't hide it anymore, chanting, lock him up. And hasn't that ultimately been their goal for quite some time now? Um, so I don't. It comes as no surprise. They're just being forthcoming with the information at this point. But yeah, that's how the media is going to present it as well. The media has looked for the opportunity to call Trump a convicted felon just as much as the presidential campaign, originally Biden-Harris. Then Hunter kind of put a monkey wrench in that. Hunter becoming a felon himself, so Biden couldn't hit on that as much as he wanted to. Now Harris feels free to run with that. Next comment. When she speaks, all you get is word salad. Yes, that is clearly a complaint used against Kamala Harris. She has some of those lines that she goes to, which are very hard to interpret. Not sure what she's meaning, but she'll be more on script. You're going to see a lot of teleprompter use because even when going back to her original campaign back in 2015, when she was running for president, remember, she never made it to Iowa. So again, never receiving a primary vote for president of the United States, and yet she is the candidate now in 2024. But that was one of the complaints back then, that a lot of what she said didn't make sense. She kind of starts a sentence before she knows how she's going to finish it. That's been a common complaint about her throughout her kind of national career. Next up, it's sad that it took the near assassination of a former president to see bipartisanship. Imagine what great things could happen if it continued. Maybe wishful thinking. Well, yes, the only bipartisanship I think this viewer was referring to was that both parties wanted to see the resignation, and she ultimately, as you saw, did resign, Director Cheadle from the Secret Service. There was some bipartisanship there, but as you can tell, that did not last long. If you've been paying attention to some of the talking heads, some of the pundits, and some of the all-around talking points being used against Trump and for Harris. A couple quick updates as we start our broadcast here. We're going to move some things quickly. Oh, cool. A couple waves. Sorry, I didn't have my email up. Hectic trying to change with the lighting. Again, I'm not sure how to do that, but we're going to give it our darndest here throughout the broadcast. It could get worse. It could get better. Bob Menendez is going to resign after the guilty verdict in the bribery case. Yes, Bob Goldbar Menendez, as he has been affectionately labeled, not affectionately, is going to resign. This is always interesting to me, though. Menendez plans to step down effective August the 20th. So nearly a month from this announcement. In the letter to the Governor Phil Murphy, Menendez said he needed time to, among other things, quote, allow for an orderly process to choose an interim replacement and for me to close out my Senate affairs. He also vowed to continue fighting the verdict via an appeal. All right. Now, today also, we're going to go through some things quickly. We are going to talk about the resignation of Director Cheadle from the Secret Service. Not a lot to kind of dive into there, but a few things I think you'll find interesting. I've got a couple things here about the ouster of Biden by the Democrat elites. Then we're going to talk about Harris's campaign, and then, of course, some things about Trump as well. So we have a lot to cover this morning. We do not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund interview because I wanted to play some catch-up on this morning's broadcast. But today, Benjamin Netanyahu will be addressing Congress. We know that Vice President Harris is not going to that speech that I don't think he called a hearing, that address, that's the word I was looking for, but is going to meet with him privately. Well, Democrats, this is coming from the New York Post editorial board, Democrats yet again will show their disdain for Israel when they boycott Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress. I saw there was some protests yesterday in the Rotunda. The Post editorial board suggests that you can consider the Democrat Party the pro-Hamas party. Vice President Kamala Harris, who is supposed to preside over the Senate, claims she has a scheduling conflict and will not attend. Her next in line to preside, Senate President Pro Temp Pat Murray, is skipping as well. Indeed, as many as 100 other Democrats are expected to thumb their noses at the leader of the Jewish state. Never mind that it's a key ally and the only true democracy in the Mideast. Nor that it's fighting for its survival, against Islamic madmen in Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran, and trying to rescue 8 U.S. hostages, including the body of 3 who died in the terrorists' hands. Ex-House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the invitation to Benjamin Netanyahu was wrong. She loves Israel, she insists, but Netanyahu is standing in the way of a two-state solution, i.e., the establishment of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. He needs to do what is right for the Jewish state or resign. That's baloney. Benjamin Netanyahu was democratically elected. Pelosi has absolutely no business meddling in Israel's internal politics. Chuck Schumer did similar, if you recall. And by the way, Israel just voted by 68-9 that a Palestinian state would pose an existential danger to Israel. That reflects public sentiment. No Israeli government will entertain the two-state fantasy of Western elites. And no wonder. Gaza was essentially an independent state. Hamas ran it, and it turned it into a military zone dedicated to attacking Israel. Its October 7th Slaughterfest was the culmination of that woefully misguided statehood experiment. Chuck Schumer's even worse, especially given that he incessantly boasts that he's Israel's guardian, playing off the meaning of his name in Hebrew. He too has slammed Benjamin Netanyahu, demanding Israel hold elections to replace him. Democrats overall have long trended increasingly Israel hostile. The 2012 convention floor booed language recognizing Jerusalem as the Jewish state's capital. The last time Netanyahu addressed Congress in 2015, nearly 60 Democrats boycotted, so it's only grown. This is something we've been talking about for a while on this program, that sentiment. That's why Harris most likely skipping the address, but also why at the time when Biden was still running for president, why he was having such an issue with the pro-Hamas protesters, and of course why he was weakening on his stance for Israel. Per Gallup, just 35% of Democrats today, sympathize more with Israel than Palestinians. Now, 80% of Republicans sympathize with Israel more than Palestinians. But think about that. 35% of Democrats today sympathize more with Israel than Palestinians. The Squad crew regularly tars Israel as genocidal. Even if Democrats disagree with Netanyahu's policies, most of them backed by strong majorities in Israel, they should be standing behind our ally and not snubbing its leader. They pretend they're just dissing Benjamin Netanyahu, but it's really Israel that they're disrespecting. So that is today. I know we're all looking towards that speech, as well as President Biden giving his first address since the announcement that he will not be running for re-election. That will be at 8 o'clock tonight. But House Speaker, just one last thing about Netanyahu's visit. House Speaker Mike Johnson announced Tuesday that there will be a zero-tolerance policy for disturbances in effect for Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the Capitol. Due to the attention garnered by the Prime Minister's address, there will be an increased police presence around the Capitol complex and in the House chamber. In the interest of all involved, we will enforce a zero-tolerance policy for disturbances in the building. Appearances, it says here that any disruption of the proceedings of the House is a violation of the rules and may subject the offenders to prosecution. If any disturbance does occur, the Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police will remove the offending visitors from the gallery and subject them to arrest. Now, keep in mind when you see these protests at a address like this or at a State of the Union, and it's a protester in the audience. Now we see protesters in the official from official members as well, but if it's in the audience, that didn't happen by accident. Whoever gave them the ticket, the pass to come to that address, that person knew, that person's office knew exactly what the intentions were. So keep that in mind. We do have to take a break. I know, again, if you're just joining us, I understand the lights are a little off this morning. We're going to be working on it during break. Hopefully I can get to something. And at some point, if they look good, let me know. All right, we got to take our first break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman and Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
Is it most important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Your one is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking. Nope, not better. Working on some lighting issues. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. All right, so yesterday, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigned amid widespread outrage over her agency's failure to prevent the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. On Tuesday, Cheadle, in a letter, wrote to Secret Service staff, quote, "In light of recent events, it is with a heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down as your director." Do you think it came to a head because it was such a disastrous hearing performance? I don't know what to think. Why would you do that hearing if you ultimately were going to resign? And I don't know how she didn't see the writing on the wall. Now, I know yesterday we had a great conversation about the fact that there's such an entitlement when you're in Washington bureaucracies, when you're in Washington, in the heart of it, that you have that entitlement and that arrogance. So maybe she thought she could outlast it. But she said the scrutiny over the last week has been intense and will continue to remain as our operational tempo increases. As your director, I take full responsibility for the security lapse. I think most people, and it became a bipartisan issue to that one viewer's point earlier in the program, or actually from late program yesterday, that it just became too much. That it became a bipartisan issue to call for a resignation because she stonewalled, she had no real answers, and of course, the number one job, the most important job, to keep the former commander-in-chief and the current commander-in-chief as Secret Service, no matter who they're dealing with, and any other kind of dignitaries, keep them safe. And there were so many security lapses, and we learned more about it yesterday from the Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I even saw calls today where people are concerned with the visit of Benjamin Netanyahu. Will Secret Service be up to the task? So it has, of course, put a lot of doubt in people's minds about the efficiency and the effectiveness of the Secret Service. So it did not come as, well, I shouldn't say that. It kind of did come as a surprise because she seemed to dig her heels in and was not going to back down, that she was insistent that she would not resign, that she was the right person for the job. But apparently It was very reminiscent of Biden saying he was going to run no matter what because he was the right person to beat Trump. Very reminiscent of that. And then eventually, of course, the surprise announcement. Similar. Now, yesterday, as I mentioned, this coming from CNN, the Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner revealed stunning details about Trump's shooting. 2 local law enforcement officers left a building with a vantage point overlooking the roof where crooks took aim. Paris said the 2 officers with the Butler County Emergency Services Unit, a tactical force with sniper capabilities, left their posts in the building to look for suspicious individual they spotted first and alerted to other law enforcement. That person was crooks that they were looking for. The lawmaker watched video taken during a congressional tour of the rally site from the building where the ESU officers left their post, showing the roof where crooks eventually climbed and took shots at Trump. So Republican Representative Dan Bishop of North Carolina said, so are you saying, to your knowledge, those ESU officers left the location where they could look out the window to go in search of the person? Paris said, that is my understanding. I don't want to establish a timeline minute by minute because we don't have that yet. Crooks, another thing that we learned just quickly, crooks fired 8 times, which is interesting. I had never heard a number put on that. I believe that the number is 8. Paris told the committee 8 casings have been recovered. Officials had previously only confirmed that the shooter fired multiple times at the rally. You've got to say, at least for Mr. Paris here, at least he's being forthcoming, Christopher Paris, with information. Because when you had Cheadle on the stand, it was a lot of, I'll have to get back to you, a lot of stonewalling. Now, they went through a few other things. A municipal officer came face-to-face with crooks. We had heard that in the past. During the several minutes the would-be assassin was on the roof. Paris said that the brief confrontation came as a pair of local officers who had learned of Crook's position on the roof attempted to climb up and confront the shooter. But while the officer was dangling from the roof, Crooks aimed the rifle at the officer, and the officer fell. And finally, communications between Secret Service and local law enforcement. Some new information to come out there. According to Paris, there was a text thread going with members of the Butler County Emergency Services Unit, some of who initially spotted Crooks and reported him as a suspicious individual. At some point, when he utilized the rangefinder, the suspicion was highlighted. A text chain, is that the best way in that scenario? I know we text here, and even I can't keep up with it sometimes. So how is that the best way to operate a Secret Service scenario? Very interesting. But at least, again, as we are learning more about what happened that day, and now with the resignation of Cheadle, Director Cheadle. As a matter of fact, our congressman weighed in on it, saying, after yesterday's hearing and my resolution calling for her firing, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigned, but this is just the first step in addressing the serious failures within the U.S. Secret Service. I look forward to a thorough and transparent investigation into the gross incompetence and massive failures on July 13th so that we can ensure a tragedy like this never happens again. It will take nothing less than full accountability to restore public trust in this agency. That is from our Congressman Nick Langworthy. Thank you for releasing that statement. But what's interesting about that, and we've said on the show in the past, you have to be forthcoming with information. You have to do it soon, or that's when the conspiracy theories arise. Well, now you add on top of that, and I'm not sure if you saw this report this morning, the Secret Service is recommending to the Trump campaign that he no longer use one of his most effective campaign tactics. What is that? That is holding outdoor rallies. They recommend no more outdoor rallies for Trump. I mean, and this is not conspiratorial, what I'm about to say. But isn't it interesting? You know the impact these rallies have, because one of the things from the beginning, they've wanted to stop him from rallying during the use of lawfare when he was in court. Now Secret Service, and it could very well be for his safety. It could very well be their legitimate recommendation. But at the same time, it does not add confidence to the Secret Service. And it also takes away one of the most impactful, powerful things that Trump does, because the media will not give him fair coverage. So Trump needs to go directly to the American people. And the rallies, what the mainstream media learned too late, as the mainstream media did not obviously want to see Trump win. What they learned too late back in 2016 was how effective they were, because they would show the rallies and laugh at the clown, laugh at the circus and all the rubes that were attending these rallies, saying it was didn't mean anything for the actual vote. It was just anecdotal. And of course, they'd always highlight the protests, and then they'd highlight some of the more, we'll just say, colorful participants in the rally, and because they thought it was all one big joke. What they didn't realize was the words that Trump was saying to the, as he puts it, forgotten men and women, were reaching a lot of people they may not have reached in the past. So they learned their lesson, and now they are not showing their rallies as they once did. They're not breaking into primetime lineup to show them. They're really relegated to various I'm not going to say out there, but different news outlets that you really have to search for. It's not on the mainstream media or the legacy media, as it's referred to so often. So they know how impactful these rallies are. But the Trump campaign appears to have heeded the agency's concern and is scouting indoor venues for future gatherings and not currently planning any large outdoor events. So he'll have to do the arena type tours, which actually the first time I attended as a member of the press, one of his rallies was in an arena in Las Vegas. So it's still very effective. It's still very large crowds. It's just taking away one of the tools from the toolbox that this campaign can use as the media tries to not cover his rallies, tries not to cover what he has to say. So the Secret Service, after their director, Kimberly Cheadle, resigns, is now calling for Trump to no longer hold outdoor rallies. All right, we've got a lot more to talk about. We're just getting started. I'm still working on the lighting. And I'm glad you joined us. Live TV, and we're having a ball. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Enjoy a Tate Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
Cridge Boys American-made farewell tour. Celebrating 50-plus years of touring. The legendary Oak Ridge Boys. August 1st, the Chemung County Fair. Reserve seats on sale now at ChemungCountyFair.com or the Fair box office. The Oak Ridge Boys American-made farewell tour.
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never-clean glass-treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory-trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704.
And we are back, yes, working on the roof camera and now the lighting. Just a few things changing up here. We're giving it our all here, folks. I'm not really sure about lighting. I'm an old radio guy, so we're getting there. I don't know. So this is Frankly Speaking. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Were you surprised by the resignation of Director Cheadle? What do you think of Kamala Harris? These are just some questions I'll pose somewhat early on. What do you think about Kamala Harris and at the rally, people yelling, "Lock him up"? Now, I understand what they're trying to do. It's a play off of Trump and Trump supporters saying lock her up in reference to Hillary Clinton. So we understand the reasoning. Is it the best optics when your party your party and your, not your campaign, but your administration has been accused of this lawfare against a former president and trying to prosecute and persecute your political enemies, meaning Trump? Is it the best optics, the best PR move? Just out of curiosity, when we know a lot of people have decided to vote for Trump who may not like Trump all that much, but only because they're so fed up with the lawfare used against him and the attacks against him. By the way, tonight, Joe Biden will address the nation in that primetime address at 8 o'clock. I wanted to mention that to you if that's something that interests you. He'll be addressing the nation from the Oval Office on what lies ahead and how he will finish the job for the American people. So kind of sending the message right there that he's not going anywhere. He's not going, as Michael Moore suggested yesterday, not going to resign from the presidency to give Kamala a little bit of the incumbency power the last couple months. Not going to do that. We do have a really interesting piece I'm going to get to here in just a little bit. Well, I don't even have to tell you about it because it's going to be coming up sooner than I expected. But how about this for timing? This is really interesting, and you probably haven't seen this. It came out on Monday. Here it is Wednesday. Normally, I wouldn't be bringing up quote-unquote old news. This is the first I've learned of it. Maybe you have heard of it. President Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the DOJ, admitted on Monday, again, the day after Biden dropped his reelection bid, they admitted on Monday it possessed transcripts of Biden's interview with his biographer after months of the DOJ denying those transcripts existed. The DOJ told a federal judge Monday it had located the transcripts. What's the chances with that kind of timing? They had found the transcripts of Biden's chats with his biographer, Mark Zwanzer, months after the conversations fell under the national spotlight. This is coming from Politico. Again, I had just heard about it. Special counsel Robert Hur, appointed to investigate Biden's retention of classified documents, invited scrutiny to the interviews after revealing in March of 2024 that he could not bring charges against Biden, in part because Biden was a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And remember, he was the worst person. A lot of people owe Hur an apology. Robert Hur. I don't think he'll get that apology. But remember, you were hated if you question anything about these transcripts. Where were the transcripts? Where? But yep, here we go. Perfect timing. A day after Biden ends his reelection bid, the DOJ just happens to tell the judge, guess what? Turns out we found the transcripts. Oops-a-daisy. Here they were in a desk drawer the whole time. Really, you can't make up some of the things you see in Washington, can you? Again, this goes to what we were talking about with the Secret Service director, former Secret Service director, Cheadle, but this arrogance of the bureaucracy, this entitlement of the bureaucracy, and really their disdain for the American people and thinking that they're ignorant and that they're going to just accept the fact, yep, oh, that makes sense that you just found it the day after Biden decides not to run for re-election. Very, very intriguing. Now, Biden's secretive withdrawal reveals the Democrats' weakness and, to use a term we've been using all morning, arrogance. That's what Joe Concha from the New York Post says. President Biden's decision on Sunday afternoon to withdraw from the 2024 race should have turned the page on his presidency without much ambiguity. Instead, it has revealed in broad daylight the central themes of this presidential election. First theme, strength versus weakness. Former President Trump is shot in the ear and comes within a millimeter of losing his life to an assassin. Arrives at the Republican National Convention to thunderous applause 2 days later. Meanwhile, Biden tests positive for COVID, disappears entirely for nearly a week as he remains in isolation. Second theme, transparency versus secrecy and incompetence. The Biden administration has been anything but transparent or truthful or reassuring that they're running the country competently. Think about it. Here we have the sitting president and commander-in-chief of our armed forces doing something that no president has done in 55 years since Lyndon Baines Johnson, announcing that he will not seek a second term. But Biden's announcement is done on social media, issued only in writing. There's no video or audio, and the statement isn't even printed on White House stationery. And that was a very good point. That's something I noticed too, and I thought that was interesting. But there may be because it's campaign, there may be the legal reason for that. But this was on Sunday, and as of late Monday afternoon, we had yet to see or hear from the president directly. Now we do know that he's going to give that address later on today at 8 p.m. The president did call in to Kamala Harris's visit the campaign headquarters in Delaware on Monday, but didn't appear on video and took no questions from reporters or anyone else. And he has yet to explain exactly why he suddenly decided to step down. Why was it? Now, yesterday we heard that anonymous source that was close to the Biden family talking to the New York Post, saying that the fix was in the whole time. That really it was an elaborate setup with the debate, starting with the debate, putting him out there so that they, knowing that he would perform that poorly, that they could no longer deny it, and that he would have to resign. But he got stubborn and didn't until much later. But it also shows you, and you got to remember, you got to keep this in mind when Harris is out there campaigning and other Democrats are campaigning for Harris and saying all this. Remember, she was a part of this cover-up of his mental health. The media was part of the cover-up of his mental health. Other Democrat politicians, they knew all this. So as they laud him and congratulate him, comparing him, I have a piece here, comparing him to George Washington himself. Remember, they're the same ones that ultimately were putting the knife in Joe Biden's back, the same one that they call George Washington. So why did he step down so quickly? Is it a mental issue? Does he have Parkinson's? Is it some other condition we're not aware of? Biden was set to return to the White House Tuesday afternoon, but made no public appearances, no press conferences, or any event. Scheduled until word came down that he'll finally address the nation tonight. With zero transparency, all we're left with is speculation and a lengthening list of questions. Meanwhile, Harris attended 2 official events on Monday. The first honored NCAA championship teams at the White House, at which the VP, of course, couldn't be bothered to answer any question from reporters. Afterwards, she was off to Delaware to visit campaign staffers in Wilmington. And I've got to say, they're saying, the mainstream media is saying she's doing a fantastic job. That obviously she's seeing a bump in polls and fundraising because there's so much excitement. She's now the best candidate they could have ever had. Again, no Democrat voter actually voted for her for president. Keep that in mind. But she is a great, I should say the nomination for president. But she is nonetheless the nominee. And yet now the media has to come out in full support of her, saying she's doing a fantastic job right out of the gate. Well, what have we actually seen? There hasn't been any questions, and she'll probably run a very similar campaign to the one that Biden ran in 2016 from the basement. Yes, she'll do more speeches and public events than Biden, but I don't believe much more because without a teleprompter, you have a problem with Harris, and that's why it actually works out in her favor not to have a primary. Though many are still calling for a primary. We're going to talk about that in a little bit later on too. But it works in her favor not to have the primary because when she primaried last time, she was not popular. Simply put, she was not popular. Never made it to Iowa, never got a single vote back in 2015. So she isn't great off the cuff as to that viewer's comment from yesterday, the word salad idea, where she starts a sentence not knowing where it's going to finish. But I'm going to continue here. Again, she took 0 questions at a time when the American people deserve to hear from the freshly anointed Democrat candidate to be. In a related story, never once has Harris held a press conference on domestic soil as a presidential candidate or as vice president. For context, Mike Pence held multiple press conferences during his time as VP. Therein lies the rub. Harris has almost no experience handling questions outside of hand-picked, friendly reporters. At the rare times she responds to any questions at all. Think of that. She's never once held a press conference on domestic soil as a presidential candidate or as a vice president. We all know why. Like Biden, her brain often malfunctions when a script and a teleprompter is not available. For example, when asked why she hadn't visited the U.S. southern border, she said, and I haven't been, Lester Holt says, you haven't been to the border. And she shot back, and I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making. while addressing angry that she got any type of pushback question. While addressing reporters in August of 2023, here's what she said about the importance of investing in community banks. You ready? Quote, "And so for years, we have worked to expand investment in community banks because, you see, community banks specialize in providing loans and financial assistance to small business owners, in particular, those in overlooked and underserved communities. And as the name suggests, community banks are in the community. To that end, expect the exact strategy Biden handlers applied to Joe for Kamala. A choreographed pseudo campaign with almost zero media accessibility other than to reporters who will play ball beforehand." Well, it worked. They know that system works for them because they know they can find those media people that will do that. And it's most media people. Again, it's about strength versus weakness. If Harris ends up being largely hidden from the press, that looks decidedly weak. Yeah, but I don't think she even has to. Look, they broke in to coverage to show some of her NCAA speech to honor those champions. So they're going to make it look like she's a lot busier and a lot more active than she is. But given all this, the obvious question that the press should be asking, if Biden, supposedly by his own admission, is incapable of serving the next 4 years from January 2025 to January 2029, how does anyone think he should be in office for the next 180 plus days until Inauguration Day? Another obvious question, how could Democrats ever possibly say that they are the protectors of democracy when the party's power brokers just forced a sitting president to drop out of his re-election race purely because they think he can't win? Not because of his mental health. Keep that in mind. If they could have kept that kid hidden and he was still up in the polls or was up in the polls, he would still be running today. It was all about his electability. Despite now being a presidential candidate twice, Kamala Harris has yet to receive one vote from any Democrat voter in a presidential primary. And yet, here she is, the party's likely nominee. That's democracy for you, says Joe Concha. It looks like the 2024 election will come down to Trump versus Harris. Democrats hope this Hail Mary will be caught for the game-winning score, but the result could end up being worse than if Biden had stayed in the race. Much worse. Time will tell. There's a lot of questions there. And we know the media is already in full-throated support and already doing everything to protect her and help her. All right, we got to take a break. I am running very late. Hey, look at this. Look at this comment. The lighting is perfect, Frank. It goes well with your glowing personality. Thanks a lot. Put on some cool shades and roll with it. Yes, our future, all of our futures are so bright, we've got to wear shades. Thank you for the comment. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
When accidents happen, you want your repair done right. Bring it to Nappy's, or if undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations. Voted #1 auto body repair shop 17 times in the Twin Tiers.
Thank you for your business.
Insist on Nappy's Auto Body done right.
Rated the hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audion Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion hearing aids starting at just $189.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. All right, I got to wait for the experts to come in on the lighting. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Keep those comments coming in on the bottom of the screen. Any surprises? Anything that we haven't covered? Were you surprised by Cheadle's resignation? What do you expect from Biden's address tonight to the nation? What do you expect from Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress? Also, Trump campaign. What do you think? Secret Service says he shouldn't do outdoor rallies. We've got a couple other things about the Trump campaign we're going to get to a little bit later on. But just quickly, Democrats canonize selfless Biden as George Washington after cannibalizing him to drop out of the race. This is a piece. We're not going to have time to get to it because we have kind of made the same points here. But Diana Glebova at the New York Post has this out, and it came out late yesterday. But you see all of these people that just praise him now that were clearly working behind the scenes to get him to drop out. Even someone like Adam Schiff making that statement to have him resign. But then that he's a George Washington. It's I don't know. And just the coverage now of Harris is just so fascinating. As someone that never really got coverage, because you look at it, she was the border czar, never really getting any coverage because she was not successful. Now they're kind of forced to cover her in a positive, glowing way. I quoted Donnie Deutsch yesterday from MSNBC saying that he was falling in love with her, that there's a twinkle in her eye. It's going to get awkward, folks. It does completely change the dynamic of the race. I don't think that's any shocking statement that I made. It changes, and Trump only has 4 months to adapt, not even, to how to run a campaign against someone completely different than we were originally sold. Also, you've got to look at how the media's got to prop her up in those 4 months to make sure that she defeats Donald Trump. And now Kamala Harris and her campaign having enthusiastic crowds chanting, "Lock him up." And again, I posed a question this morning. Do you think, from a political standpoint, put your biases aside on whoever you support, whoever you don't support, doesn't matter. Do you think from a political optics, if you are working behind the scenes in a campaign, do you think the optics would be smart to say, hey, remember how they keep accusing us of lawfare against the former president, and how that has persuaded a lot of people who didn't like Trump to vote for him because they believe the system is rigged against him? Maybe we shouldn't be chanting "lock him up" to verify and validate the point that the former president and his supporters have been making. There's the question. There's one of many questions I've asked you so far this morning. Well, stay with us because I ran late in that last tangent of mine, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you're looking for new tires, do you choose a chain that's owned by a corporation and only cares about their profit margins, a place who hasn't been in business very long, or a locally owned tire store who's been around for over 5 decades? The choice is pretty obvious, right? Parmeter Automotive has been in business for over 50 years. You don't make it that long unless you take great care of your customers. Stop into Parmeter Automotive today and see why they've become a staple in our community. With 7 convenient locations, there's a Parmeter Automotive near you.
Is it most important? Don't you want more energy? Now is the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
I'm Marianne Kirk. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So, again, this is I'm just looking at it from a political perspective, not from a Republican or Democrat perspective. Just the optics of a crowd chanting "lock him up" at Harris's first campaign rally. A large crowd chanted "lock him up," meaning Donald Trump, at a time when they have been accused, the campaign, the Democratic Party, the administration, accused of using lawfare, using the Justice Department to go after their political enemies. I just seems like almost a rubbing it in, a insult to injury type scenario. I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds: predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say I know Donald Trump's type. So that is prepared, just like that the one viewer said yesterday, where CNN is actually saying now, as if it's not an issue, that it's a prosecutor versus a convicted felon. So now the lawfare that got that term that they wanted so bad to use against Trump, the convicted felon label, is back. Again, Biden struggled with it a little bit because of Hunter's issue, to put it lightly. He struggled. Harris will not. So now, even though they used to back away from the prosecutor idea, because if you look at what she did for how many people she locked up for marijuana and things of that nature, they always kind of stayed away from it a little bit. Now they're going to go full-throated with it because they think it'll be effective against the convicted felon label that, of course, the lawfare eventually led to. So lock him up. At least now they're open about it. At least now they're not hiding behind it. That's what it's all been about, is locking him up, and of course getting that convicted felon label attached to his name. Hey, by the way, Hillary Clinton's excited about Kamala Harris's 2024 run. Claims she can beat Trump in an op-ed, saying it's a fresh start for American politics. I asked this question yesterday, and I don't know if it's a loaded question. I don't know if I even really have a thought on the question itself, but what's being made as a big issue in this is that it would be the first woman president. And so the question is it discouraging if you're a Harris voter, if you're excited to vote for the first woman president? Is it discouraging that the woman president was never voted on in the primary to get the nomination? Does it make you wonder if she would have got it on her own if it weren't for the way the system worked out? It's just a question. It's kind of the asterisk. No matter what, let's say you just like Harris. Never mind all the other kind of talking points. You just always liked Harris. Does that concern you? Does that bother you that she was never really voted on? Just something to keep in mind. But Hillary Clinton said the country has an even sharper choice in the 2024 election. In an op-ed to the New York Times, she said that elections are about the future. That's why I'm excited about Vice President Kamala Harris. She represents a fresh start for American politics. There's now an even sharper, clearer choice in this election. Is that kind of a dig at Biden? A sharper? Oh. Former Secretary of State said that the new matchup with Vice President and the likely Democrat nominee pits a convicted felon against an experienced former prosecutor. So I know many of you are going to get frustrated by that line. Prepare to hear it nonstop from the media, from people like Hillary Clinton, from Harris, everyone involved in this race for the next 4 months. Now, whether or not it gets to Trump enough that a debate, because he is calling for debates, if he, for lack of a better term, loses his temper, meaning where he gets kind of aggressive, if that's the New York Post calling for it yesterday, to hoping that he will keep this calmer demeanor. What are your thoughts on that as well? I would pose that. Obviously, a lot of people love the rally Trump, the Trump that's really the entertainer. But watching that debate, I've got to say, never mind Biden's performance, I thought that Trump was the Trump needed in that instance. And I think being in politics now, and I don't mean the negative side of politics, but being around the actual politics of things for as long as he has, since the escalator ride, I think he's learned a few things. And that was an example where in the past he might have went overboard and ended up hurting himself and helping Biden. But that night he saw Biden collapsing and said, taking it easy, getting his talking points out, for lack of a better term, but not giving the over-the-top statements, not giving the attacks on Biden. Will he show that same discipline against Harris, or should he show that same discipline against Harris? That only time will tell, because we see that many have said that Trump has a little bit of a different demeanor, like anybody would after nearly losing their life to an assassin's bullet. So what Trump will we see if Harris agrees to a debate, or from the rallies and the ways that they go after Harris? Or will Vance, J.D. Vance, be kind of the attack dog now? These are all questions that we don't have answers to. Just going to be fascinating to watch at a time when the news has been really nonstop. We now have a little time here to say, okay, what's this next 4 months going to look like? And kind of speculate on what we're going to see. But one thing you can be for certain, you can bet the farm on, is that the prosecutor versus convicted felon is going to be played out so much, you'll be so sick of it by November, if you're not already, but by November, because they wanted to use that convicted felon line, and they started to. Then the Hunter case happened, so they couldn't use it quite as much. Well, they're back. Let me tell you, they're back with a vengeance, because we've heard it already from many major news outlets, many major politicians. The elite Democrats ousted Biden, that pushed Biden out to get Harris. I know a thing or two about how hard it can be for strong women candidates. This is Hillary Clinton, to fight through the sexism and double standards of American politics. I've been called a witch, a nasty woman, and much worse, she noted of her failed presidential campaign. It's nothing like starting off and talking about how bad the country is to really get a campaign kicked off. How sexist America is. Nothing like hitting the ground running. While it still pains me that I couldn't break the hardest glass ceiling, I'm proud that my 2 presidential campaigns made it seem normal to have a woman at the top of the ticket. She also noted Harris will face unique additional challenges as the first black and South Asian woman to be at the top of a major party's ticket. But she added, it's a trap to believe that progress is impossible. It's a trap to believe that progress is impossible. Again, I asked the question because it just intrigues me. How does it make you feel that she never received a vote? But anyway, for president, for the presidential nomination, Clinton said Miss Harris is chronically underestimated. So are many women in politics. But she is well prepared for this moment. The time for hand-wringing is over. Now it's time to organize, mobilize, and win. Harris is the preferred candidate over Biden for most Democrats, according to a new poll. We got to take our last short break of this hour. Hour number 1, nearly through. Unbelievable. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Want to know why it's hard to stop a train? It's how we've invented products that reinvented our world. It's how we test as hard as the elements do. It's how we run.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York is a local, veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years' experience. From service and repair to new installations, trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Your Out Pioneers are back at historic Dunn Field, Saturday, July 27th. It's post-game fireworks brought to you by Hilliard and Southern Tier Custom Fabricators. Plus, free trading cards from Multimedia and a special giveaway from Diamond Collision. Sunday, July 28th, bring pet food and get in for free. Help support the Chemung County Animal Shelter. Get your tickets early. Call 734-26 790.
And we are back, frankly speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So many comments coming in. Here we go. Couple to start with. Sharper than what? Yes, Hillary Clinton saying that Kamala offers a sharper difference between Trump, I guess. Sharper than what is a good question. Is she saying sharper than Biden? Sure, good question. Another comment. I thought the left loves the felons, and they do everything they can to put them back on the streets. So this new lock him up chant is confusing me. Yes. Is that a negative? I thought we were not supposed to lock people up, as we see with bail reform. Another comment from a different viewer. What a risky move for Kamala to have her first rally in Delaware, of all places, and talking tough about locking him up. The only Republican in town was probably away on vacation. Yes, it must be. Also, not taking questions. I thought that was fascinating to learn that she hasn't done a press conference as a vice president. That is really telling. We know that off script. We've seen it in interviews that she has had, that without a teleprompter, without a script, even with friendly media outlets and friendly journalists and reporters, she just isn't that good. One of the reasons why she didn't make it to the presidential race, even to the first primary back in 2020, didn't even make it to that race. Didn't make it to Iowa. So yes, it does not come as a surprise. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. I know I've been running late. I had that one big, long tangent. And also, if you're just joining us, working on the lighting. So stay with us. Hour number one is through. We've got 1 hour left together. You won't want to go anywhere. We've got a lot to cover. We'll be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Oh, water tasting is better for the planet?
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Major League Baseball on Fox.
What I'm doing, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live, you don't believe it, just watch.
Jaw-dropping stuff.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. If you are just joining us, we've talked a lot this morning. What do you think about the resignation of Cheadle? Did it come as a surprise? What do you think of Harris's campaign so far? We know that the president, Joe Biden, who you may have forgotten is president, but he is. He will be addressing the nation tonight at 8 o'clock, speculating about what he'll have to say. But Hillary Clinton coming out and endorsing, should come as no surprise, but endorsing Kamala Harris and saying that it's a prosecutor versus a convicted felon. We know that line is going to be used a lot. But speaking of Hillary Clinton, there's an interesting take from some people that are watching this campaign unfold so quickly. It's only Wednesday, remember, and Biden just made his announcement on Sunday. Well, Democrat elites are being accused of steamrolling democracy to oust Biden and anoint Kamala Harris. Democrat elites are being accused of this steamrolling democracy after Dems mounted a sudden pressure campaign to topple Biden following his disastrous debate performance. House Republican leadership talked about these influential leftists who sabotaged the democratic process to get his decades younger running mate elected instead, with, again, no say from the Democratic voters. But let's be honest, go back to Bernie and Hillary and probably before, the Democrat elites have never really trusted their voters, cared about their voters' thoughts. It was at the end of the day who the kingmakers wanted to be there. Over 48 hours ago, just over 100 days before an election, Democrat Party bosses forced Joe Biden off the ballot, said House Speaker Mike Johnson. They invalidated the votes of more than 14 million Americans who went through the small d democratic process and chose their nominee for president. They just steamrolled democracy. Trump saying similar. The Democrats lied and misled the public about crooked Joe Biden, and now we find he is a complete and total cognitive and physical mess. They also misled the Republican Party, causing it to waste a great deal of time and money to be resumed. And that, I think, is a very fair point from Trump in the fact that Biden resigns from his re-election campaign after the Republican National Convention. Now, if it was before even, which is still way too soon to completely change your campaign before actual election day, but it would have been more helpful to Republicans, of course. It would have been, maybe you could argue, more fair to give them the opportunity at the convention that gets so much attention to go after Harris instead of continuing to go after Joe Biden or, again, and all the money being spent campaigning against Joe Biden, all for naught. And I'm not going to go through what they knew. We know. I mean, look at someone like Chuck Todd, who didn't even hide it, that they knew about his cognitive decline, but he knew about it 2 years ago and didn't report on it. Remember? Or you look at George Clooney, waited a few weeks after that fundraiser where he said, boy, the fundraiser was real bad. So they were hoping that he could overcome the debate performance. When he couldn't, it was over for him. And I don't mean because they said, boy, we saw the mental health decline all of a sudden, and it's too far for us. We're worried about it. No, it's because the polls show he couldn't be elected. So at the end of the day, it's all about getting elected. It's not about the actual health of Joe Biden or the safety and security of the country. It's about electability. That speaks volumes. And this piece at the New York Post goes through setting up kind of the sealing the fate, the George Clooney op-eds, the Nancy Pelosi and the Obama, even though they were never fully came out, the fact that those stories were leaked, that they said as much, that goes to show you that it was, I guess you would say, it was over. Because you did lose Obama. You lost Schumer and Pelosi, even if they didn't come right out and say it, but they're non-denial denials. So it's those type of things that finally put the nail in the coffin, as we know. And another, and this again, from a party that talks so often about too much big money in politics, it was really when the donors dried up as well, that the money wasn't coming in, that it had to, something had to change. Because has there been, and someone posed this question yesterday, and I can't remember who said it at the New York Post, but has big money ever played a more important role in an election? And not because of Trump, but because of Biden and the money drying up, and that's when they realized he had to go because it hurt his electability. So to prove that point, and this was kind of breaking yesterday, look how much money has come into Harris's coffers. The money no longer dried up. This is, again, for a party that hates money supposedly in politics, this campaign, this race for presidency, arguably the most controlled by big money in history. So this was very interesting. This is coming from Fox News, but I saw it at numerous outlets. You're not going to most likely see it from, the legacy media, the left media. But Black Lives Matter, you remember the organization Black Lives Matter? They are not happy with the, coronation of Kamala Harris as a presumptive Democrat nominee. And they are calling on the Democratic National Convention to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates, just taking it out of the hands of their own voters. But again, I think that speaks volumes about, just like going back to Bernie and Hillary, it speaks volumes about what they think about their voters. In a statement Tuesday from the group Black Lives Matter, which rose to prominence back in 2020, as you recall, they said that a 24-hour process of talking to party bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process Democrats should be proud of. Let me reword that because we got so many waves coming in. A 24-hour process of talking to party bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process Democrats should be proud of. And this comes after, as they said, that Biden was in it to win it, that we heard so often, right? Black Lives Matter, a group that predominantly aligns with the Democrat Party, is calling foul on the play. Quote, "We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Installing Kamala Harris as a Democratic nominee and an unknown vice president without any public voting process would make the modern Democrat Party a party of hypocrites. Black Lives Matter demands that the DNC immediately host an informal, virtual snap primary across the country prior to the DNC convention in August." And I think, obviously, the Democrat Party would be scared of that. The Democratic National Committee would be scared of that because I don't think at the end of the day it would be Harris. But Black Lives Matter makes a very good point here that putting Kamala Harris in and an unknown VP without any public voting would make the modern Democrat Party a party of hypocrites. Now, I will preface this. They're not saying this. This is my words. I don't think that bothers them. Because just like it didn't bother them about Biden's health and they kept it hidden and they protected him until he was no longer electable. And that's when they got the concern, and that's when they booted him out. They don't care about being a hypocrite because they've talked about threat to democracy so often with Trump, and then look how they operate. So I just don't think that label, even though it should be powerful, and I think Black Lives Matter did the right thing with this letter, calling them out, I just don't think it really shakes up anybody at the DNC or Kamala Harris. But I'll continue with what their letter had to say. "We call for the Rules Committee to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. The current political landscape is unprecedented, with President Biden stepping aside in a manner never seen before. This moment calls for decisive action to protect the integrity of our democracy and the voices of black voters." Again, if you're just joining us, this is coming from Black Lives Matter, an open letter that they sent out yesterday to the Democratic National Convention. "Democratic Party elites and billionaire donors are attempting to manipulate black votes by anointing Kamala Harris and an unknown vice president as a new Democratic ticket without a primary vote by the public. This blatant disregard for democratic principles is unacceptable. While the potential outcome of Harris' presidency may be historic, the process to achieve it must align with true democratic values." And that goes to my point that I was saying earlier, that there would always be an asterisk there. But continuing, "We have no idea where Kamala Harris stands on the issues. Now that she has assumed Joe Biden's place, and we have no idea of the record of her potential vice president because we don't even know who it is yet." Now, they clarified, the Black Lives Matter leader, Samoa Bowers, clarified this is not an attack on Kamala Harris or black women. And right now, we aren't questioning Kamala's qualifications or capabilities. This is about the nominating process. Those of us who care about the principles of democracy cannot be serious about installing Kamala Harris and an unknown vice president as the Democratic nominee without any semblance of a people-powered process. Not delegates and party elites, but actually asking communities across the country if they believe this should be the Democratic ticket. Anything less is unserious in the quest for democracy. Very interesting. We got to take our first break. Thank you for all the waves and for all the comments. The first break of hour number 2. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be right back.
Make it Ford Summer Sales Event. A new Ford at 0% interest for 36 months on new Ford F-150s, Expeditions, Explorers, and Escapes. If America's best-selling truck is what you're looking for, we have 10 Ford F-150s in stock with up to $12,000 off MSRP. Or take home a new Ford Escape Active with all-wheel drive for only $29,000. Shop before the end of the month and receive up to 20% over average Kelley Blue Book on your trade-in. Shop 24/7 at Blaze Alexander Ford at Mansfield.com or stop at shop to save some green off Route 15 in Mansfield, where we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Now's the time. Great deal on taking care of your property. You need the #1 selling subcompact tractor in the U.S. so you can do it all and do it right. Z-Series mowers that deliver a quality cut, and Sidekick utility vehicles where durability meets speed. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 60 months, plus save up to $300.
AJ's Outdoor Power Equipment has 2 locations, Mansfield and Coudersport, PA. AJ'sOutdoorPower.com.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As I mentioned earlier, we do not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund section of a program because I wanted to spend as much time as possible with you this morning playing catch-up. But I do thank the Steuben Senior Services Fund for being such an important part of the program. A couple comments from viewers. They don't know the meaning of fair, meaning the Democratic Party. They don't know the meaning of fair. Everything they do is crooked. And that's in reference to Black Lives Matter sending out that letter suggesting that Democrats are going to end up being hypocrites if they install Kamala Harris. Another comment from a viewer. They ran a coup d'etat on Trump. Good for you on the spelling. That's one I always struggle with. But yes, they ran a coup d'etat on Trump. No surprise that they do it for one of their own sociopathic actions. Now, we're talking about that open letter from Black Lives Matter saying the Democrats are a party of hypocrites for installing Harris with no public voting process. Very valid point. Very valid point. Oh, good morning. Thanks for the wave. On the opposite side of the coin, Joy Reid. Now, Joy Reid, you could argue, was trafficking in conspiracy theories after the assassination attempt on Trump. Also, in reference to some of the things happening at the Republican National Convention. She's been pretty out there lately, for lack of a better term. I'm not sure what word I want to use. But she said yesterday on MSNBC's, I think it's just a Joy Reid program, right? Isn't that what it's called? She said, given just the stratospheric entrance of Vice President Kamala Harris into the presidential campaign, and she has now secured enough delegates to become the nominee, you're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color. But really, as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture, you're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side. You're really going to look crazy being on that side, given the cultural phenomenon of Vice President Kamala Devi, is that how you say her middle name? Harris. She's about to make history. She's about to become the first woman president. The door needs to close behind Amber Rose, and she looked crazy over there. But shut the door behind her. Amber Rose was one of the guest speakers at the RNC that gave that really powerful speech about that she believed Trump was racist until she did the research and found quite the opposite to be true. So what's interesting about this, Joy Reid is saying that people of color that maybe have questions about Harris's rise, about the nominating process, these type of things, maybe don't support her because she's just like going back to when she ran in 2020, just not a strong candidate, just not a good candidate. If they have concerns and maybe don't want to vote for her because not seeing any kind of accomplishment with her time as VP, you will look really weird if you don't vote for Kamala Harris. again, isn't it interesting? The Democrat Party knew how bad of a candidate that Harris was, because that is one of the reasons that they hid Joe Biden's cognitive decline for so long, because they thought he was more electable than Harris. When the polls started to show that he wasn't electable, they booted him. I don't know if their ultimate intention was to go with Harris, but then they saw the writing on the wall and they couldn't really push her aside, obviously. So they know, and that's why it's so, I kind of think, it comes as no surprise that the media now is praising her, saying how great she's going to be. They have to go into full defense mode, if you will, full protection mode, full promotion mode on Harris, and that is what we're seeing. Again, Harris never popular amongst her own party, but now is some type of amazing candidate. But remember, if an amazing candidate, how amazing is a candidate if they never received a single vote for the office that they are running for? She has never received a single vote for running for president of the United States. Not back during the primary in 2020, not today. But she's ascended there. I also ask, does that, when they talk, because of many outlets and Hillary Clinton and Joy Reid talking about the history of it all, first woman president, these type of things, is that the way you want to happen, or is it okay? It doesn't matter at the end of the day when the smoke clears how it happened, as long as it happened. Is that kind of the mindset? That it wasn't done the normal way, that there'll always be somewhat of an asterisk there? She continued, this is Joy Reid. She's racially ambiguous. I don't want to say she's black because she has said she's not. So I don't want to say this black woman, Reid said, following Amber Rose's speech. There's a feud going on here. This woman who is of whatever race as she claimed, she said she's not black. But the RNC brought somebody whose whole career is based in black culture. Her whole career, Joy Reid, why am I going through what she said about Amber Rose, who gave such a powerful speech? But she says that people of color who don't vote for Kamala Harris will look real weird if they don't vote for her. I'm not going to go the back and forth that she had, but that comes on the piggybacking of her conspiracy theories as well about what happened in regard, this is Joy Reid, in regard to the attempted assassination of Trump, insinuating maybe that it was staged, insinuating many things. We're not ones to push conspiracies here, so I'm not going to give her the platform to use their terms. A lot of texts coming in, a lot of waves. Thank you so much. Representative Andy Ogles, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a Republican out of Tennessee. He has introduced articles of impeachment against Vice President Kamala Harris because of her work as border czar, as she willfully and systematically refused to uphold federal immigration laws. A second article in the resolution also contends she breached the public trust. Good timing by Ogles. He has introduced articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris for high crimes and misdemeanors. This coming from Politico and Washington Examiner. Good timing, I suppose, on that, right? All right, we got a lot of comments coming in. I don't want to run late like I did in the last hour. I do want to highlight something very quickly. If you're just joining us, I'm working on the lighting. The lighting's a little weird this morning, but I think we can deal with it, right? I did want to highlight the fact that I know I've been bringing this up all week, but we're coming midpoint in the week, and the Salvation Army of Corning, who does such amazing work for our community, and you know how important it is, and this show has been about it since day one, about supporting your community, being a part of your community. It's something that's really lacking as a whole in this nation, unfortunately. This lack of patriotism, the lack of community, lack of faith. So we've been doing our smaller part to boost it up as much as possible. And let me tell you, the Salvation Army and the work that they do for our community is phenomenal. As the chairman of the advisory board there, I get the numbers each month on how many people and families that we help, and it's heartbreaking, but also just awe-inspiring how hard they work over there at the Salvation Army. Well, the reason I bring this all up is the kettle campaign was down this year, and that doesn't mean they're not doing all the same services they've always done and help the community the way they've always have. That they are, but it has become a struggle, and financially there are some problems, some concerns when the kettle campaign did not reach the normal levels. So they're doing a Christmas in July Filler Up competition, the kettle that is so synonymous with Christmas, where they have these small tabletop kettles that they have at local restaurants here on Marcus Street in Corning, local restaurants and stores, excuse me. So this week, if you're on Marcus Street and you go to one of these locations, just maybe drop a little bit in those buckets. I know not everybody, in those kettles. I know not everybody has cash on them. That's why I bring this up so much. Maybe stop at the ATM. You can get change, get whatever you want, or take some out of your drawer or wherever you keep your money, and remember to bring it to you to Marcus Street when you go to get lunch or you shop at one of our many great stores. Here are the ones, and it's a friendly competition amongst the stores and the restaurants, but of course at the end of the day it's all about helping the Salvation Army. So here are your locations for the kettles: Butcher Son, Sorges, Mooney's, Connor's Mercantile, Bottles and Corks, Anelio's Pizza, and 9 Elephants. 9 Elephants is new to the list since yesterday. So if you're at any of those locations, it sounds like a fun time. You can hit up every one of them. Please think about giving a small donation. The Salvation Army thanks you in advance. All right, let's take that break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Enjoy a taste of Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
Cridge Boys American-made farewell tour. Celebrating 50-plus years of touring. The legendary Oak Ridge Boys. August 1st, the Chemung County Fair. Reserve seats on sale now at ChemungCountyFair.com or the Fair box office. The Oak Ridge Boys. American-made farewell tour.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-977-4997. That's 1-800-977-4997, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We got a lot of waves coming in, a lot of comments. Thank you so much. One of the comments here, I'm trying to play catch up. I've been trying to mess with the lights this morning, so I'm sure I've missed a few. Biden gave her one job, meaning Kamala Harris, and look how this incompetent gaslighter screwed that up. Never Harris. Well, borders are, and that's why Representative Ogles from Tennessee, calling for her impeachment because of the handling of the border. Interesting timing on that. Going to a little bit more about Harris, and we are going to talk about Trump and his campaign this morning. He is calling for debates because we had that point yesterday. We weren't sure. There had been no real statements made on that. So just giving an update, he said he'll do as many debates, a lot of debates, that type of thing. There's a retired Chicago cop that writes for Fox News here. And what he kind of warns of Kamala Harris was her rush to judgment, is how he put it, back during the Jussie Smollett hoax. Do you remember that? I know it's been a long time. At the time, the California Senator Harris said, Jussie Smollett is one of the kindest, most gentle human beings I know. I'm praying for his quick recovery. And she went on to say, well, I'm not going to go through everything on this. This is something you can find for yourself at Fox, but I wanted to highlight it for you. Roy, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm lost. Oh, Eugene Roy, saying that her initial comments were a rush to judgment that showed a hasty decision before all facts are known. Remember, she was a prosecutor. It's one thing to express your support for a friend. It's another thing to use your platform as a government official to prejudge a case before it's played out, before all the facts are known. So that, just going through a couple of the news articles, you can continue to comment at any time. Kamala, we're learning, her campaign is vetting VP candidates. It's interesting. I almost ended the show yesterday with an article that we had that was saying that, boy, there's a lot of people that she wants for VP, but it sure looks like Andy Bashir. Sure looks like he's going to be the guy. And this is, remember, we talked about this with Vance, not Vance specifically, but during the VP race with Trump, that behind the scenes there's these like weird shadow campaigns when VPs want the job, where it's campaigning, but it's not typical campaigning. It's, you know, maybe there's a leak of some opposition research that they did about the other person that's in the running for VP. Maybe it's almost like an endorsement from someone. Again, it's all behind the scenes. So we're seeing this piece saying that, oh, Bashir's got it. Now we learn, just because typical media fashion, knee-jerk, they published that. Now we learn that he was not asked to submit any vetting papers to Harris. Harris has requested materials from vice presidential candidates, including Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. That's according to the Wall Street Journal reporter Ken Thomas. Now, Bashir said that he did not receive any vetting paperwork and said Harris personally called him just hours after Biden announced he was stepping off the ticket. He added that he would only consider the VP job if he felt he could help the people of Kentucky in that position. The only reason I'd ever consider something else is if I felt that I could help my people in Kentucky more in a different role, or that there was a chance to move past the partisanship, the constant fighting. All right. I don't know. Who do you like? Who do you think she should pick as VP? I know a lot of people are calling for... who was it that was actually calling the other day to have two women on the ticket with Whitmer? That was a big... Was it Hillary who said that? I can't remember who it was. Now, there's quite a few, as is the case, op-eds, coming out about Harris from various outlets, both pro and con. One, and I think this was a really good point, and it kind of got buried later on in the day because there's just been so much to cover. And this was from the New York Post and Isaac Shore, someone who we mention somewhat frequently. Well, Isaac Shore raises the point because if you have looked at the history of Kamala Harris has always been compared to the kind of the wacky aunt, the fun-loving wacky aunt. That's how they tried to present her on Saturday Night Live. And Isaac Shore, and there's a lot of pop culture things going on with Kamala Harris, with the coconut tree, if you're following that, and kind of her word salads. Well, Kamala Harris is a human meme, says Isaac Shore. Over the past 3.5 years, America has come to know the Veep for her philosophical language about the significance of the passage of time, her coconut-laden lectures about context, her yearning to be unburdened by what has been, and of course, what they call the cackle, her laugh. Consequently, the GOP's attacks on her have tended to revolve around the fact that Harris is cringy personified. But as enjoyable and cathartic as the jokes about her have been, it's time to get serious. And I think Isaac Shore raises a really good point. Harris is now on the precipice of the presidency, and Americans must know the truth. Her greatest sin is not that she's sometimes awkward in the way that our wacky aunt is, or even that she's lacking in political talent. It's that at her core, Kamala Harris is a far-left, authoritarian demagogue, according to Isaac Shore. If you want to know what her vision for the country would look like, think about a double down on Joe Biden's failed agenda, or her failed home state of California, only with the balmy weather. Under Biden, the federal government has sought to hamstring domestic energy producers to the detriment of those of us paying more at the pump. His number 2 would not rest until we were all even less comfortable and well off. In the Senate, Harris championed the $10 trillion Green Deal, which called for the total destruction of the vital fossil fuel industry that not only provides blue-collar Americans with high-paying jobs, but underwrites our high standards of living. I want to continue with what Isaac Shore had to say, but one of the things that I think is interesting, to get into the substance of her beliefs, Republicans only have 4 months. And right now it's focused on the shock of Biden resigning, the media promoting Harris now and building her up. But to get the message out about something we all knew about in the past, but because the media never really covered and she never really did much with the media these last 4 years, 3.5 years, now it's time to almost play catch up and say, remember, this is what she stood for before when she was a senator. This is what she stood for in the Biden administration. It's going to be a little bit of an uphill, I'm not going to say battle, but just kind of an uphill attempt to try to get back out her beliefs, because the media has largely ignored her because she was easy to ignore, not successful as borders are, not really accomplishing much as VP. But I want to continue. Then on the campaign trail, she boasted that there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking, the innovative industry that has revitalized the Pennsylvania economy and turned America into an energy exporter. Even Biden has had the good sense to keep his distance from such absurd policy programs. In fact, upon further examination, Harris's agenda better resembles Bernie Sanders, not her boss's. In 2019, she not only came out in favor of a massive Medicare for All health care program that would come up with all the requisite rationing of care that socialized medicine co-signs and its users to, but even went so far as to say that she would abolish private health insurance entirely. Forget if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Harris made a promise that if you like your plan, she would blow it up. Harris doesn't even balk at tax rates of up to 80%, even calling the idea fantastic in one appearance that saw her praise AOC for challenging the status quo. Her radicalism extends into the social realm as well, where she especially is prone to demagoguery. She threw herself way out over her skis to describe the Jussie Smollett hoax as a, quote, modern-day lynching. She launched a brutal and largely unfair attack on Biden's record on race during a Democratic primary debate. She hopped on to the destructive defund the police bandwagon and applauded Los Angeles for cutting its police department budget by $150 million. She came within an inch of calling for the abolishment of ICE, arguing that we need to probably be thinking about starting from scratch. Unsatisfied with the already radically permissive abortion law framework set in place by Roe v. Wade, she promised to wield the Department of Justice against pro-lifers. And perhaps most notably, she urged her followers to donate to bail funds for the sick rioters who unleashed hell on American cities during the summer of 2020. During her previous campaign, Harris promised, with a wave of her make-believe scepter, to implement a sweeping amnesty program for illegal immigrants and violate the Second Amendment, all without a peep from Congress. You know, the legislative branch she was serving in at the time. Think DACA and Biden's preposterous student loan debt transfer, but on steroids. So yes, Kamala Harris is a meme, the kind of person who's comprehensible only about half the time. But pay attention to the semi-coherent parts of what she says. You'll find that she's not just promising a Biden redo, but something much, much worse. That's Isaac Shore. But again, she is going to give speeches where you're not going to see the true Kamala Harris come out, because she's going to have the teleprompters. It's going to be very staged, very crafted. So that is, just to prepare yourself, that is what we're dealing with for the next 3.5 months. The prosecutor versus the convicted felon, the I'm falling in love with Harris media. That is what we're going to see, not about the substance of her past political career and what she did or didn't do under the Biden administration. Stay with us. We got to take a break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Here we go.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less,
with no cuts or nicks.
Introducing Remington's new and improved Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results. And only through this exclusive TV offer, now you can try it in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Balder Boss is the fast, easy, safe way to shave your head, wet or dry, in 90 seconds or less, without nicks or cuts.
No nicks, no scrapes, fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
The 360-degree pivoting neck contours closely around your head curves for maximum contact, anytime, anywhere, in 90 seconds or less. With exclusive Wet Tech technology, shave in the shower, or with any foam or gel. Japanese-grade steel blades and turbo power plow through the thickest of hair, yet gentle enough it won't irritate skin. With pure lithium power that lasts up to an incredible 60 minutes. That's like 1 full month of use without a recharge. Then easily rinses clean. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groom. Now you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But wait, order now and we'll ship it to you absolutely free. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer for the ultimate groom. Free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Every Balder Boss comes with a 5-year limited warranty where durability is guaranteed, plus a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't absolutely love it, send it back, but keep the trimmer as our gift just for trying.
I got a clean, nice, smooth shave in under 90 seconds. No nicks, no cuts.
So order now.
And we are back, just responding to some of these texts. Thanks so much for joining us here on Frankly Speaking this morning. We are having a blast, as always, and the show is going way too quickly. As I promised, we will be talking about the Trump campaign as well. I know we've covered a lot this morning. The resignation. Talk about a news cycle that we're in. The resignation came yesterday. It was somewhat of a surprise, not necessarily a huge surprise. She just did so horribly at the hearing, and also because there was such a lack of confidence in the Secret Service. Yes, she was stubborn. She was kind of still entitled because she is, at the end of the day, a Washington bureaucrat, so she has that entitlement. So she had that, I'm not going anywhere because I'm the best one to do this job. But boy, she did so bad, and there's just so many red flags to point to that she wasn't long for that office, and I think we all knew it. Todd Bensman says Kamala Harris won't fix Biden's open border. She doesn't even think illegal immigration is a crime. Well, clearly she won't fix the open border. She's been the border czar. So I'm not picking on Todd Bensman. Obviously, I think this needs to be reiterated to some people that aren't aware. But yes, she, at the end of the day, will do nothing about the border, and it could actually be an even more open, porous border because Biden putting in those very, very, very minute, small little mechanisms at the end while he was still running for president that really isn't doing anything, but Harris could go back full open, porous border. Whatever the Democrat Party nominee might float about her plans for border security over the next 4 months, American voters who disagree with what she and Biden did at the border should know that, in her case, past definition is prologue. And then Michael Goodwin says Kamala Harris puts the lie in allies when it comes to supporting Israel. Americans are naturally fixated on the security lapses surrounding the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and the curious circumstances of Joe Biden's sudden withdrawal from the campaign. But another Washington development is also incredibly important, and it must not get lost in the news. It involves Benjamin Netanyahu, which is already revealing in striking detail how the Democrat Party is turning its back on the Jewish state. Moving away from Israel would be a grave error at any time, but coming in the midst of a war for its survival, while the move mounts an outrageous betrayal of an endangered ally. And so what Michael Goodwin says is the hostility oozes from the top, with Vice President Kamala Harris refusing to preside over Netanyahu's address to a joint session of Congress. Coming just days after Harris became the Dems' presumptive nominee, her absence takes on a heightened significance. Well, she's trying to distance herself from Biden's weak but somewhat support of Israel, because so many in the Democrat Party have become anti-Israel, however you want to term it, and it was becoming a major issue for Biden in the polls. So now Harris is trying to come out with her, you'd say worst foot forward, but in her political mind, best foot forward, and say, nope, I'm not presiding over the joint session with Benjamin Netanyahu, just to signal to the anti-Israel section of the Democrat Party that, hey, I'm with you. I want your support, and this will be the president that I am. Now, let's get away from Harris, because we've spent enough time on her. We have only a few minutes left on this program, so please get your last-minute comments in. This, I think, proves many of our points. I'm not just going to say my point. Many of our points on this program. If you recall, and I actually took some heat over this, Nikki Haley, we were told at the time, was the best candidate, the only way we were going to win. And I said that was reminiscent, not to knock Nikki Haley, but it was reminiscent of how many times we were told the only way we can win as Republicans is Jeb Bush, or, let's go back to Bob Dole, or John McCain, or Mitt Romney. And it was very reminiscent of that. And there's always a major concern when the media, who never want to see a Republican win an election, when they're telling Republicans who we should pick, who the best person for the job is. That should always be your first red flag. So people said, well, yeah, but look at all these people who are voting for Nikki Haley that will never vote for Trump. He's never going to get it. It's 20%. And there's all these kind of Democrats gleeful over it, but also kind of trying to rub it in Republicans' faces. And I had said at the time, I don't think those Nikki Haley supporters were ever going to vote for even Nikki Haley. I think it was the Democrats and independents that wanted to kind of ruffle some feathers, get some people talking during the primary, maybe really hurt Trump. But at the end of the day, they were going to vote for Biden anyway, or at the time, Biden, now Harris. This, I believe, proves my point, because there is a group out that Nikki Haley is denouncing called Haley Voters for Harris. So were you ever a Republican? If you are now saying, well, I was going to vote for Nikki Haley, or I did in the primary, but now I'm going to vote for Harris. See, that person who believes that way would have never voted for the Republican nominee, even if it was Nikki Haley, to prove our point here. And as I said, I took some grief over it in emails and texts, saying, no, that's not the case. You're generalizing. You're painting with a broad brush. I think this just proves exactly what we were saying at the time. Haley issued a statement on this group called Haley Voters for Harris, saying Kamala Harris and I are totally opposite on every issue. Again, back to our point. Any attempt to use my name to support her or her agenda is deceptive and wrong. I support Donald Trump because he understands we need to make America strong, safe, and prosperous. Now, Haley Voters for Harris, which was previously known as Haley Voters for Biden, has reportedly been hit with a cease and desist letter over the group's alleged unlawful use of Ambassador Haley's name to imply that she supports the 59-year-old vice president. I think there was groups like that were always the disruptors that the media really latched onto to say, oh boy, look how much support there is for Nikki Haley. When in fact, it was never support for Nikki Haley. It was a way to get a dig in on Trump. And I've got to say we were vindicated on this program. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
The Oak Ridge Boys American-made farewell tour. Celebrating 50-plus years of touring. The legendary Oak Ridge Boys. August 1st, the Chemung County Fair. Reserve seats on sale now at ChemungCountyFair.com or the Fair box office. The Oak Ridge Boys American-made farewell tour.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere to fix that? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast, so strong, and so convenient. It's like putting the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires of your car on a single charge, or inflate a bag full of soccer balls at practice. Bullseye Pro is so advanced, it has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Plus, it can be 100% hands-free. You simply set the target pressure and walk away, keeping you out of harm's way. Bullseye Pro is lightweight, durable, and powerful enough to inflate this massive monster truck tire. Plus, it has 4
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So much going on, so many comments. Thank you very much. We're talking about Trump. Trump had, well, they say reemerged. I'm not really sure how he could reemerge when he spent all less. I guess they're not saying from the assassination attempt. Reemerged from after the convention. Donald Trump will step out onto the campaign trail Wednesday to an entirely new race and a political landscape once again altered by an unprecedented election year. The former president's rally in Charlotte is his first since Biden abruptly ended his re-election bid Sunday, setting off a chain of events that we all know about. Do you think the media, and I think we know the answer to this, I don't even know why I'm posing this question, do you think the media will be fair and talk about the fact that Kamala was never really voted on by the Democrat Party, or is it just she's a presumptive nominee, and so that means once she gets the nomination at the convention, it's all said and done, that part of it is all history, and it'll just be the glowing reviews? It's just going to be the glowing reviews. Why do I even ask that question? Now, the Trump campaign did file a complaint with the FEC trying to block Biden's funds transferring to Harris, and I think that's worth a shot. And I only say that because really, just like if you voted for Biden, at the end of the day you somehow got Harris, that could be maybe a little bit upsetting to you because that's not who you supported. Now, I'm not saying you didn't support Harris in the sense that she was always a heartbeat away, but there was nothing guaranteed that Harris was going to be the VP, though, of course, pretty much guaranteed. But you voted for Joe Biden, and now you get Harris. You might have made a donation, and that donation originally misspent by the Biden campaign trying to boost up his polls, even though a few days later he resigned, so a big waste of money on that end. But you donated to the Biden campaign, and now that money's going to, again, someone you didn't vote for president. It is going to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is seeking to perpetrate a $91.5 million heist of Joe Biden's leftover campaign cash, a brazen money grab that would constitute the single largest excessive contribution and biggest violation in the history of the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, as amended. The complaint, a copy of which was obtained by CNN. The complaint is against Biden, Harris, and the Biden campaign, which is now the Harris campaign, and campaign treasurer Kiana Spencer for allegedly flagrantly violating the act by making and receiving an excessive contribution of nearly $100 million and for filing fraudulent forms with the commission purporting to repurpose one candidate's principal campaign committee for the use of another candidate. Harris campaign spokesperson Charles Lutvak responded, saying Republicans may be jealous that Democrats are energized to defeat Trump and his MAGA allies, but baseless legal claims like this one, hey, and if there is a party that knows a thing or two about baseless legal claims, so they may be right. We should keep that in mind, because they could definitely spot a baseless legal claim a mile away, like the ones they've made for years to try to suppress votes. Oh wow. How suppress votes when they were trying to keep Trump off the ballot? Again, going back to the one viewer's point, the gaslighting, but just the hypocrisy, and it's not ever going to be an issue. They have no problem saying that talking about suppressing votes when they literally tried to keep Donald Trump off the primary ballot. And they've tried to use lawfare to make your vote not count in the Republican Party. And now they don't care about their own party's voters. But let's hear more about suppressing votes and stealing elections. Okay. It will only distract them while we sign up volunteers, talk to voters, and win elections. I do think it's important to know, again, and I talked about this earlier, the fact that the party that is always to talk about dark money and too much money in politics, this is on the Democratic side, but really in the campaign in general, there has never been more power for big donors in any presidential election. I mean, those donors were one of the reasons why Biden was forced to step aside. And now they're making waves for Kamala and making it so the media can say, uh-oh, she's off to a tremendous start by donating so much right off the jump. But we've got more to talk about. I don't want to run too late because we got to wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking. And we are nearly out of time. Please get those last-minute comments in, those last-minute waves. Anything you'd like to say on the way out the door on this Wednesday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
What's up? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Recording. I guess I can turn that music down. Quick comment before we go, and we got to get back to a couple of quick things. But the Democrats have had Biden's political trajectory planned since they forced Bernie Sanders to step back and throw his allegiance to Biden. Yes, if you recall, they even changed the primary this go around to suit Biden's favor. So you're exactly right. It was a simple plan. Install him as president, have him do their bidding as a puppet in chief, dump him after 4 years, blame him for his horrible administration, install another puppet. All the hoopla was window dressing to throw off the thinking public, not to be confused with the sheeple that's just nod their head to anything the Democrats say. Well, and to your point, Ken, I'm curious, and that's why I've been posing the question, and I've asked it from friends of mine who are Democrats too. It seems like that would get very old as a Democrat voter. You know, you go back to Bernie and Hillary. You watch Bernie have these huge rallies comparable to Trump rallies. You saw this kind of populist popularity, and there was people that supported Bernie, obviously, in the Democrat Party, who then saw that they never had a chance, that the fix was in, that Hillary Clinton was going to get it with super delegates and the like, that there was never a question that Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee, that Bernie could waste his time and his money and all that. And again, proving the point that the powers that be in the Democrat Party don't believe in their own voters. So they have to set up mechanisms like the superdelegates to make sure that they get the final say, because we like their money, we like their support, but still up to us, right? So the first time you saw that, if you were Bernie Sanders supporter, you must have been outraged. I always likened it to if you were a Trump supporter and you saw the groundswell for Trump and you saw all the support for Trump, and then I don't know, I'll just throw around some names, the Bill Kristols, remember him, of the world, came out and said, nope, it's going to be Jeb Bush. Could you imagine it be the death of the Republican Party? I mean, I think everybody who supported Trump at that point would have said, nope, done with the Republican Party. But the Democrats just went along with it and said, okay, well, I liked Bernie. I wish it would have been him. The fix was in, but I guess I'll vote for Hillary anyway. Or in some case, I think not, and I think that hurt them a little bit too, with that cockiness of thinking that their own voters would accept kind of stealing it from Bernie. And then you saw, as I said, the changing of the rules to help Biden. And now you see this, where you went to vote for Joe Biden. And now you're told that your vote does not matter because it's going to be Harris. Whether or not you supported Harris does not matter at the end of the day. They already have Harris as the presumptive nominee with no say from Democrat voters, and that's why I think Black Lives Matter and that memo they sent out were right to say it's hypocrisy and right to say you shouldn't just install Harris, that there should be a conversation. Now, Trump did say he is willing to debate Harris multiple times. He said that he'd be willing to debate Vice President Kamala Harris multiple times if she is nominated as expected. Quote, I would be willing to do more than one debate, actually, Trump said. Yes, the Republican nominee said, yes, absolutely, I do want to. I think if you're in the Democratic nominee or Republican nominee, you really have an obligation to debate. So it's very important, Trump said. Now, I have not heard of any response from the Harris campaign. So we'll see. We'll see if there's anything more for that. We are out of time. There's one other piece if you're looking for something to read today by Neil Ferguson. Trump Vance's doctrine of military realism is a sign of hope for Ukraine and not isolationists. All right. Hey, look at the last minute wave coming right at the buzzer. Thank you so much. Been a fun show. Went very quickly as it always does. I hope that you'll join us on tomorrow's broadcast at 6 a.m. as we will have so much to cover. Do not miss it. It's not too late to get last minute comments in. We'll try to read as many as we can on the program at the beginning of the show. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I look forward to it already. See you tomorrow.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.